The sky above the city of Tertial 5 pulsed in soft purples and silvers, an eternal dusk caused by its twin suns caught in polar eclipse. On the highest ledge of the fusion spire that powered the outer colony, an alien girl stood alone, claws twitching, tail coiled tight, eyes locked on the emptiness below. Zira of Clan Novel had nothing left. She was once heir to a respected line of war scholars among the Vethel, a species known across the stars for their logical minds and rigid caste systems. But logic hadn't saved her when her scores dipped below acceptable thresholds. Logic hadn't helped when her neural alignment tests marked her as neurodivergent, a polite word for defective. So they stripped her title, stripped her name, banished her to Tertial 5, a crumbling colonial outpost where exiles vanished into labor queues or worse, became test subjects for the Unity. And now, after months of isolation, humiliation, and silence, she stood on the edge. Zira's body trembled. Not from fear. She had already weighed the probabilities. The fusion spire's energy core was directly beneath her. One step and she'd vaporize. No pain. No aftershocks. But then, you don't look like someone who wants to die. The voice came from behind. Well, human. Zira turned her head slightly, eyes narrowing. A figure leaned lazily against the spire's access panel. Brown jacket. Guff boots. Pale face marked with a faint glint of cybernetic implants. He had no visible weapons. I do not want to die, Zira said coldly. But my people have made it clear I am in the way. The human took a slow step closer, careful not to spook her. Well, then they sound like idiots, he replied. That made her blink. Excuse me. Idiots, he repeated, rubbing the back of his neck. Look, I don't know much about your kind, but I've seen that look before. I served on Taros 4. I've seen soldiers with that same expression before they took their helmets off and stopped breathing. He stared. He wasn't trying to stop her with logic or pity. He wasn't even afraid. You are not Vethel. You don't understand our protocols. Caste. Our honor. Nope, he said. But I do understand what it feels like to be tossed out like trash. She studied him, claws flexing uncertainly. Who are you? He smiled just a little. Private Dane Keller. Earth Expeditionary Corps. Technically retired. Unofficially. Just a guy who's real tired of watching people disappear. You came up here. For me? Dane shrugged. I saw you climb up. Been doing maintenance runs along the rim. Look, maybe you really want to jump. But if you do, it should be your decision, not one your people shoved down your throat. Zira's throat clicked in confusion. Why does that matter? Because it's the difference between giving up and taking your life back. Over the next hour, the wind howled around them as twin moons emerged in the sky. Zira hadn't moved from the ledge, but neither had she jumped. Dane had simply sat down on the platform beside her. He didn't try to coax her back. He just told stories about growing up on Earth, in a city half flooded by climate collapse. About scraping by in orbital boot camps, hiding a stutter, pretending not to feel. About being discarded after a leg injury, replaced by a drone and a cold handshake. You know what hurts the most? He asked, gaze fixed on the skyline. Not the leg. Not the discharge papers. It was realizing that to the system, I was just another broken part. Zira's tail uncoiled slightly. Yes, she said quietly. That is what they made me feel. Like malfunctioning equipment. And yet, you're still here. Only barely. Barely is better than never. She turned toward him fully now, the faint glow of the spire reflecting in her eyes. You speak as if you care. But why would a human care about a defective alien? Dane's face turned serious. Because I was saved by someone once. On a battlefield. She didn't have to pull me out. But she did. And all she said was, "You don't leave your own behind." Maybe I've been trying to pay that forward ever since. Zira's voice was barely a whisper. No one has ever said that to me. Well, Dane said, standing slowly and extending his hand. Now someone has. She stared at the hand for a long moment. Her instincts screamed it was a trap, an emotional ploy. But her claws relaxed, and she took it. Over the weeks that followed, Dane became a strange, stubborn presence in Zira's life. He didn't hover, didn't try to fix her. He offered her a place in the engineering bay, where he tinkered with broken Unity gear and reprogrammed fusion nodes. He showed her how to laugh at malfunctions instead of fearing them, how to curse when she dropped a wrench, how to messily devour a spiced meat wrap from the outpost market. The other aliens barely noticed her. They'd written her off as a stray. But to Dane she was brilliant. Her claw-like digits could rewire a capacitor in seconds. Her mind solved logical puzzles faster than his datapad. And when she laughed, a rare, soft thing, it felt like a star igniting in a vacuum. Still, there were bad days. Sometimes she'd go silent for hours, staring at walls. Other times she flinched when someone addressed her too loudly. Dane never pushed. He'd just sit nearby, fiddling with spare parts, until she came back to herself. "You don't treat me like I'm broken," she said once. He smirked. "That's 'cause you're not." "But I am." "No. You're bent. Like a metal beam hit too hard. But you bend a beam the right way, it becomes an arch." She blinked. "That is an acceptable metaphor." He grinned. One morning the outpost commander, a bloated Tarskian named Drox, summoned Dane. "Explain why you've given unauthorized access to a caste exile." Dane didn't flinch. "Because she's not useless. She's marked. You are aiding a dishonored outcast. This could violate Unity compliance code." "Screw Unity," Dane interrupted. Drox's antennae twitched. "You are bold, human." "No. I'm just done letting good people fall through cracks." "She is unstable. You realize what she was about to do when you found her." "Yeah," Dane said, voice calm. "And I also know she saved us from 2 reactor breaches, fixed half your interface bugs, and translated a lethal algorithm no one else could crack. So you can either reclassify her as staff, or I walk." "You'd risk exile, for her?" Dane's eyes didn't waver. "Damn right." That night, Zira found him working late, as usual. "You challenged Drox." "For me?" Dane glanced up from his console. "Word travels fast." "Why?" she asked again, her voice raw. "Why do you keep fighting for me?" He looked at her then. Really looked. "Because when I found you on that ledge, I saw someone worth saving." She didn't respond. Just stepped closer. "I'm not strong," she murmured. "Yes, you are. I still think about jumping." "I know. But now, you also think about fixing things. About soldering and logic puzzles. About the way that old market vendor always tries to give you extra wraps when he thinks I'm not looking." Her eyes widened slightly. "You noticed that." "I notice everything about you," he said softly. Silence stretched between them. And then, unexpectedly, she pressed her forehead against his, a gesture from her people reserved for absolute trust. "Dente. Until I forget the ledge exists." He nodded. "Forever if you want." Years passed.